Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Coming up on Arirang News. With public anxiety high, South Korea will tomorrow release its own analysis of Japan's planned discharge of the Fukushima wastewater. Also on Friday, the head of the UN nuclear agency arrives in Korea for a 3-day visit. President Yoon will next week depart for a 6-day trip to Lithuania to attend the NATO Summit before heading to Warsaw to meet his Polish counterpart. Also, talks are underway for a Seoul-Tokyo Summit on the sidelines. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen lands in Beijing, seeking to help stabilize relations between the world's two largest economies. This comes amid escalating tensions with the U.S., with China imposing export controls on chip-making metals. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with Japan's planned discharge of wastewater from the crippled Fukushima power plant into the ocean. With the IAEA finding the plant consistent with international safety standards, South Korea is set to release its own independent report on the matter tomorrow. Also on Friday, the head of the UN nuclear agency is scheduled to visit Korea for 3 days. Our Bae-eun-ji leads us off.
As anxiety and anger grow over Japan's planned release of Fukushima wastewater, South Korea on Friday will issue a report containing its own assessment of the matter.
Based on data collected from the on-site inspection of the Fukushima nuclear power plant and the information Japan has unveiled so far, our government has been conducting its own independent review of Tokyo Electric Power Plant's plan to discharge wastewater.
Announcing the plan, the government said the review is in its final stage, following a 2-year process. It's expected to include the South Korean government's overall assessment of the discharge plan, as well as some suggestions for Japan. This coincides with the chief of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi's visit to South Korea, scheduled from Friday to Sunday. He plans to head to Seoul after wrapping up his trip to Japan to meet with Foreign Minister Park Jin and the chairperson of the Nuclear Safety and Security Commission, Yoo Guk-hee. Earlier on Tuesday, the IAEA released a comprehensive report approving Japan's plan to release the wastewater into the Pacific Ocean, saying it meets international safety standards. And as the Japanese government seeks more support from neighboring countries, the leaders of South Korea and Japan will likely meet next week. The presidential office said Thursday that it's working with Tokyo to arrange a meeting between President Yoon and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida on the sidelines of the NATO Summit in Lithuania. A senior official from the presidential office said if the meeting does take place, the two leaders are expected to discuss the Fukushima wastewater issue. Bae-eun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, an overnight rally is being held by the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea on Thursday to protest Japan's plan to release wastewater from the devastated Fukushima nuclear plant. The party has also announced planned legislation for a new bill that would ban all seafood imports from Japan if the release does take place. The ruling People Power Party, on the other hand, said that the DP is denying science by denouncing not only the government, but also the IAEA. It added that the government should continue to conduct independent tests based on the IAEA's scientific test results to lessen the public's anxiety. President Yoon will attend the NATO Summit for the second consecutive time, heading over to Lithuania next Monday before crossing over to Poland to discuss broader cooperation on Ukraine and more. A separate bilateral sit-down with Japan's Prime Minister is currently being arranged. Our presidential correspondent, Oh Soo-young, has what's on his itinerary.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will discuss support and reconstruction for Ukraine at the NATO Summit next week in Lithuania and make a state visit to Poland, rolling out Seoul's defense and self-diplomacy in Europe. Yoon's office said Thursday that the South Korean leader will attend the two-day security meeting in Vilnius, focusing on increasing two-way cooperation between the 31-member alliance and the Indo-Pacific region, beginning with the war in Ukraine.
The president will lay out South Korea's contributions to peace in Ukraine, one of the most important issues among the international community, and will concretely set forth our global responsibility diplomacy.
A senior official said while it's unlikely Seoul will issue a completely new support package for Kyiv, it continues to factor in the complex circumstances in Ukraine and Russia and consult other nations on aid provision. Also, Seoul and NATO will adopt a new document to institutionalize cooperation in 11 areas, including non-proliferation, cybersecurity and emerging technologies. North Korea will also be on the agenda, with Seoul and NATO countries jointly warning that Pyongyang's illegal actions will not be tolerated as the regime develops its nuclear capabilities. On that note, Yoon will meet with NATO Secretary General on Tuesday and hold over 5 bilateral summits along with various multilateral engagements. The president himself will moderate a 4-way summit with other NATO partner nations, Japan, Australia and New Zealand, and a separate bilateral sit-down with Tokyo is currently being arranged. Crossing the border to Poland on Wednesday, Yoon will meet with South Korean nationals before holding a bilateral summit with his counterpart Andrzej Duda on Thursday, followed by subsequent meetings with the Prime Minister and parliamentary speakers. Branching out Seoul and Warsaw's burgeoning trade ties, Yoon will attend 3 main business events, which include a business forum, a conversation with local Korean firms, and notably, a discussion with Korean companies on reconstruction efforts on Ukraine.
The president will be joined by an 89-member economic delegation, including not only firms in industries like batteries, defense and nuclear power plants, but also many construction firms interested in rebuilding Ukraine. We will listen to their entry strategies and bottlenecks and discuss the government's support measures.
A senior official told reporters that a trip to Ukraine is not on Yoon's itinerary, nor is it currently being arranged. However, the president will hold bilaterals with more than 10 countries, excluding Poland, next week, not only to expand Korea's diplomatic and trade ties, but also to strengthen its bid to host the 2030 World Expo in the city of Busan. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Prices have somewhat stabilized here in South Korea, but the economic outlook for this year remains pessimistic due to a weakened performance in the first half of the year. Our economic correspondent Shin Ha-young tells us what to expect in the second half of 2023.
Despite a rising expectation that the economy will recover in the latter half of 2023, the government has lowered its growth forecast for this year to 1.4% due to a sluggish performance in the first half of the year. Exports, which are crucial to South Korea's economy, continued to decline in the first 6 months. Data from the Trade Ministry shows that monthly exports have seen an on-year drop for 9 straight months. This was mainly due to delayed recovery in the chip industry, which produces the nation's key export item, as well as a fall in exports to China amid a rather weak reopening from China. But on the bright side, the on-year decline in overall exports in June was the smallest so far this year, indicating that the country's exports may rebound in the second half of 2023. The country also saw a trade surplus in June for the first time in 16 months. There is an expectation that the country will see a distinct recovery as it approaches the end of the year, particularly due to a recovery in the IT industry.
Currently, the chip supply continues to decrease, and the economy is gradually recovering, which means it's clear that the second half is a period where the demand-to-supply ratio improves.
South Korea's consumer prices, a key gauge of inflation, slowed for the first 6 months. Based on that trend, the government has lowered its inflation outlook for the year from 3.5% to 3.3%. But there are still lingering factors that could raise prices, such as geopolitical risks and accumulated pressures for price hikes, including for public utility fees.
Consumer prices have cooled down to the 2% range, indicating price stability. One of the main factors for this is weakened oil prices. So when oil prices rise again, inflation may climb again.
To stabilize prices, the government plans to minimize increases in public utility fees, such as gas bills. In order to ease the cost burden on vulnerable groups, the government will also expand its so-called energy cashback plan. Households can apply to get a certain amount of money back on their bills if they use less gas than they did last year. 신하영, Arirang News.
Exports of South Korea's cultural content last year surpassed shipments of home appliances and textile products, such as apparel, in terms of monetary value. The Korea International Trade Association said on Thursday that exports of cultural content, including online games and music, continue to be in the black, totaling $13.3 billion in 2022. The association added that the success of content exports was also leading to an expansion of the shipments of consumer goods such as cosmetics and processed food. However, it expressed concerns about the concentration of exports to the Asia region, saying more measures were needed to diversify the overseas destinations for local content. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen lands in Beijing, seeking to help stabilize relations between the world's two largest economies. This comes amid escalating tensions with the U.S., with China imposing export controls on chip-making metals. Our Kim Hyun-sung reports.
The U.S. is trying to mend relations with China through a visit by a high-ranking U.S. official starting Thursday. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has embarked on a 3-day diplomatic mission with the main goal of engaging in dialogue with several top-level leaders, including Chinese Prime Minister Li Qiang and Finance Minister Liu Kun. She will also meet with the heads of American companies in Beijing. The visit marks the second high-profile diplomatic outreach by Washington in less than a month. In June, Secretary of State Antony Blinken broke a 5-year drought when he became the first in his role to set foot on Chinese soil. Yellen's visit is to foster a more open dialogue between the U.S. and China, but it comes amidst rising tensions surrounding technology-related exports. Just this week, China implemented stringent export controls on gallium and germanium, both materials instrumental in the manufacture of secondary batteries for electric vehicles. In a sudden move, Beijing declared the policy would take effect from the 1st of August, setting off a shopping frenzy among companies to secure supplies before the deadline. The U.S. Commerce Department spokesperson said on Wednesday local time that Washington firmly opposed the move, highlighting it underscores the urgent need to diversify supply chains. Treasury Secretary Yellen is anticipated to bring these concerns to the table during her visit, as both countries work towards smoothing out the creases in their complex relationship. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
On the technological front, Korea has developed super concrete that allows for slimmer structures that can nonetheless support greater weight. Our Lee Eun-jin covers this advancement and more.
This is the latest bridge being built, connecting Seoul's Gangdong-gu district in the east of the city and Guri City in Gyeonggi-do province. The 33rd bridge over the Hangang River looks very thin. It is 2/3 the thickness of previously built concrete bridges, yet can withstand greater weight, and is expected to last some 200 years. The bridge is being built using super concrete developed by a team of South Korean researchers.
How light we can make the bridge while maintaining its strength is what makes the technology world-class. Super concrete is extremely lightweight and at the same time secures 4 times the strength of ordinary concrete.
Now, this is a device developed by researchers in the field of construction technology for water and the environment. It desalinates salty seawater into a drinkable form. The blue-dyed water turns clear after passing through the device. Its structure is similar to the existing thermal desalination process, but what's different is the membrane that the water vapors pass through when heat is applied to the seawater. This new technology makes it easier to obtain drinkable water with higher purity. And both of these technologies set South Korea at least 5 years ahead of other technologically advanced countries.
Depending on how we proceed, we could have an advantage over countries like Europe, the US, Japan, or China, and it won't be easy for them to catch up to us. It would take at least 5 years.
It's been roughly 40 years since South Korea started this kind of research and development at home, and research methods and processes are now changing. South Korea is setting out to take on more challenging research, even becoming pioneers in developing new technologies.
In an era of the global power struggle in technology, it is time for our researchers to develop strategic technologies and to play an active role in facing the problems in our society, as well as the entire planet.
The gap in technological advancement that sets South Korea ahead is expected to make a mark in new developments, like artificial intelligence smart systems that automatically adapt and operate in new environments, new technologies that respond to new infectious diseases, and even in the construction of housing in space. 이은진, Arirang News.
Opera singer Kim Tae-han sat down with Arirang News to talk about his journey to become the winner of this year's Queen Elisabeth Voice Competition. Our Kim Jong-sil shares his story.
Kim Tae-han's life changed when he was in the third year of middle school.
I went to a liberal arts middle school and I was just kind of a normal student. But in the third year, I told my mom that I wanted to sing, so she recommended that I studied vocal music. So my journey began there.
After being accepted to Korea's prestigious Seonghwa Arts High School, Kim said he was influenced by musically gifted peers from all over the country.
I met some friends who had similar interests to me, and getting close to them made me fall in love with classical music. So after meeting them, I began to really enjoy vocal music and study hard.
After high school, Kim was accepted to Seoul National University, majoring in music. There, he met other people who sang opera.
When I was singing opera with the seniors at SNU, I was singing with them in a chorus and participated in the program as one of the actors. It was during this time that I decided to become an opera singer.
Last month, Kim won this year's Queen Elisabeth Voice Competition held in Belgium. It's considered to be one of the top 3 classical music contests, along with Polish Chopin piano competition, as well as Russia's International Tchaikovsky competition. Kim claimed the top prize and is the first Asian male singer to do so. We asked him about his encounter with the legendary soprano Cho Soo-mi, who was one of the judges.
When they announced the name of the winner, she hugged me and said congratulations. And after the event, she told me it's just the beginning.
He added that just her being there gave many of the South Korean contenders a lot of hope and courage. In fact, 8 out of 9 male semi-finalists of this year's voice competition were all from South Korea. Even though he won, Kim says he's staying humble.
I don't think I won because I absolutely sang the best. I think I was really lucky, and my programs were very strategic in terms of how they could show my strengths. That's why I have to stay humble and keep working hard.
Kim said he's going to continue working hard so that one day he can be one of the main attractions in a world-class opera. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
If you'd like to hear more about Kim Tae-han's story, then a full in-depth interview is coming soon to Arirang TV's The Globalist program on July 12th at 5 p.m. Korea Standard Time. So do stay tuned for that. This year's World Choir Games in Korea's coastal city of Gangneung includes a special group of singers seeking to share a message of peace and perseverance amid war in their country. Our Song Yu-jin has their story.
The Vognyk Choir from Ukraine is turning heads here at the World Choir Games in Gangneung. Based in Kyiv, this all-girls choir has been spreading the beauty of contemporary Ukrainian choir music since 1970. But their journey to Gangneung wasn't an easy one. Due to the ongoing war, the 38-member choir had to take a 16-hour bus ride to Poland to catch a flight to Korea.
It's become a part of our daily routine to hear air raid sirens blaring, a constant reminder of missiles and drones overhead, forcing us to seek refuge in bomb shelters. It's tough, but we've never lost hope or given up, thinking that we would win. We always carry hope with us, and that's what brought us here today.
For these girls, being part of the choir goes beyond just singing.
It's like detox of your soul. Sometimes after a hard day, you come, you sing, and all the emotions go away, but nice emotions are coming to you. I like singing in choir because music connects us, and music can connect everyone in the world without knowing any language.
Their debut performance at this year's World Choir Games was on Wednesday evening, where they were the final act of the celebration concert. The Vognyk Choir aims to raise spirits in their home country while rallying support from around the world.
Yes, our message that we want the world to know that our country is in pain right now, but there is always a hope about peace. We would like you to pray for us, and we guess that when Ukraine will win, the peace will come to the world.
We want to show the world that Ukraine has, is, and will stay strong. We are alive. We continue to work, we raise children, and we live our lives. It's not easy, but we are forging ahead. We believe Ukraine will win.
But the choir's journey at the World Choir Games is far from over. They have a highly anticipated performance at the closing ceremony next Thursday, where their harmonious voices will once again show that even in the darkest times, the universal language of music has the power to heal and unite. 송유진, 아리랑 뉴스, 강릉.
From childhood memories of grandparents' folktale storytelling to the present-day storytellers known as Storymamas, the tradition of passing down enchanting tales continues. And as our 신새벽 reports, it's becoming an attractive K-content.
옛날 어느 냇가에 엄마 청개구리와 아들 청개구리가 함께 살았어요.
Once upon a time, the magical phrase instantly transports kindergartners into the captivating world of fairy tales and folk tales. These stories are passed down orally through generations, keeping them alive for centuries. This is a story mama whose animated storytelling style adds a new dimension to the way the tales are told.
Today we listened to the tree frog story and it was fun.
I love listening to Storymamas stories more than reading books.
This initiative started in 2009 with 30 Storymamas. Fast forward to today, and it has become a flagship project of the Culture Ministry with over 3,000, captivating young minds in more than 8,600 childcare centers nationwide. The project not only promotes social engagement for the elderly, but also preserves Korean traditions, folklore, and the country's cultural heritage.
There are quite a few folktales that only a story mama can share with children. They're not found in books. That's why it's really important for the tradition of story mamas to continue so that children can keep them as their own and not forget them.
Furthermore, it transforms into captivating content, blending entertainment and valuable life lessons through timeless stories. Several broadcasters in South Korea have embraced this concept, presenting TV entertainment programs featuring story mamas. And soon, story mamas will be part of K-content, disseminating traditional Korean stories worldwide.
We plan to produce video content that combines a story mama's narratives with foreign language subtitles. They will be available online through platforms like the King Sejong Institute website and YouTube.
As the magical tales of Story Mama continue to be told, generations connect, imaginations soar, and traditions thrive. And now they are ready to go global. 신새벽, 아리랑 뉴스.
It seems like sweltering conditions will continue on for central regions. Highs in Seoul will be a little higher than average at 32 degrees Celsius tomorrow. For Busan, conditions will be a whole lot different with rain in the forecast. Rain clouds will be heavily clustered across the south of the country. Jeju Island will see the most amount of rainfall with up to 150 millimeters in the forecast. Jeollabuk-do province will see up to 100. Chungcheongdo provinces and the surrounding regions will see 5 to 30 millimeters. The ground is already very saturated from previous downpours, so please take extra precautions. Intense UV radiation will be seen for central regions where no rain is expected. For the Seoul metropolitan area, Gangwon-do and Chungcheongdo provinces, UV ray index will be standing in the high to very high range. Tomorrow's Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan will be starting off at 23 degrees. Highs in Seoul will get up to 32, Daejeon 29, Gyeongju will be reaching 28 degrees. On Sunday, scattered outbreaks of rainfall are expected nationwide. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all for this Thursday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news. Have a lovely night.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's my make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토 스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니?